Hey, hey, Scorpio, Mel, intuitive coach here, excited to bring in your November 2025 monthly reading. All right, let's open up your energy field and take a look at what is in store for you this month. Now, Scorpio, your first house of identity, renewal, and personal power is taking precedence. Now, November is your cosmic rebirth portal. So happy birthday to those of you sun sign Scorpios out there. This is a time to shed old layers and step boldly into your next evolution. The spotlight is on you this month, and your confidence, your presence, and how you wish to be seen is what is being activated within you, and you have strength showing up twice. Now, I have been mentioning the strength card because either in the theme or the major arcana has been showing up for almost every single sign, and you have it twice. And whenever I see a surge of the same energy showing up in the amongst all the signs in the same month, it's a collective sweep, basically, where this is a month where we are overcoming obstacles as a collective. And for you, this is a really potent time. Now, your energy is showing up because you are magnetizing here what it is that you are wanting to attract in your world. Your intuition is strong. This is a month of really reinventing yourself in a new way. And regarding your own identity, because for many of you, perhaps you felt like your identity was going through some changes, like who am I? This is the month where you're really releasing any outdated versions of yourself, Scorpio. You are redefining your path, and your key themes not only include strength, but also shadow work and healing. And you are the healer. You are brave enough, courageous enough to embrace your fears and to open yourself up to truth and alignment. This is a month where you are being guided to show up more fully, unapologetically yourself. Some of you may even have a desire to change your physical appearance, to take a look at health or habits that you have felt a bit stuck in or that no longer serve you, and to make some big changes. You have the empty room and the river as your archetype, and the empty room is behind. And because we have the shadow here, we actually have the shadow and the light coming together. So for many of you, you're starting to come out of a shadow period that's been very heavy. This next trip around the sun is powerful. And other people, Scorpio, are starting to notice your strength, and your influence within yourself and others is naturally growing. And so shadow work coming up, it's not a bad thing. We often tend to shy away from our shadow. We avoid, we numb, we suppress, we deny. And when we come face to face with our shadow, that's when we learn about our greatest strengths. That's when we are able to tap into this inner reservoir of strength. And I always say when strength shows up in a reading, there is nothing that we cannot overcome. And the fact that strength has been showing up for every single sign this month tells me that as a collective, as a whole, we are all going to overcome some very difficult energies, but I feel like they are aligning you to your own personal sovereignty, to your own personal truth here, to allow you to show up more fully in your life, in your relationships, in your career, and as I've mentioned, in alignment with your personal truth, meaning you don't have to hide. You don't have to hide this part of yourself. You are stronger than you think, Scorpio. You are persevering through compassion, through kindness, not through control or dominance. That is not the way forward. When strength shows up here, this is about you taking a look at the shadow parts that we tend to even doubt within our own self. This is about you working on creating a safety net for your nervous system. If you have been living in a state of survival, right? Surviving versus thriving, that is what is changing here for you. Instead of feeling like you are walking on eggshells or waiting for the next tower to happen, or if there's been a lot of instability, I feel like you've done a lot of work, perhaps somatic healing and getting in touch with your own inner peace. And you're protecting your peace at all costs. And that's what this next chapter is all about for you. Now, think of this month as your phoenix rising. Basically, you're rising from your own ashes with new wisdom, with new radiance here. Many of you may have even fell into the trap of addiction. Perhaps you've buried your emotions. You may have even attracted other individuals in your life, or they were a part of your soul group. People who have had addictions, maybe even mental health disorders or heavy buried emotions that had created a sense of trauma within themselves, or they may have lashed out and you may have been a part of that challenge, that struggle. And what we have here is massive healing taking place. This is recovery, Scorpio. This is closure. You are gaining closure this month. It's a rebirth month for you. And as I've mentioned, you're rising from your own ashes with this newfound sense of wisdom, with this new radiant glow about you. And I see that you're no longer stuck or feeling like you don't have a way out. It feels like this is a month where you're able to see things from a different perspective, from a higher perspective, maybe from a more healed version of yourself. And Spirit wants you to know that you're not alone. You have support here. And I see that support may be something that was lacking in the past. This could be physical, financial, even emotional support, but you could be leaning into your spiritual team, connecting more with your spirit guides, your loved ones, your ancestors, your angels, your guides. Many of you are connecting to a therapist, perhaps a teacher, a mentor. This could be a trusted loved one or friend. So I do feel like support is here. Support is available. You are starting to open yourself up more and more every day. And there is a focus or an emphasis here on your health. And if health has been slacking for you, I feel like you are taking a look at it head on and you're saying, okay, this is the month where I'm really going to put my heart and soul into eating healthier or curbing smoking cigarettes, or if you've been drinking, or if you've been feeling like you haven't been moving your body as much, or whatever it is that you've been wanting to work on. Maybe you wanted to repair connections with your family. Perhaps you've been wanting to start a new craft, or you've been wanting to study more and gain new skills. If there's been any sort of devil energy, any sort of procrastination or codependent dynamics, perhaps bondage, obsessions, or even manipulation that has come from external sources in some way, or even within your own mind, this is something that you are heavily addressing because you want this to be the best not only year of your life, but you want this to be a new era. For many of you, it feels like this is an era. So perhaps the last 10 years for some of you, even the last decade has been challenging. You may have gone through some heavy times, and I'm getting 2023 was a difficult year. 2017 was difficult, and 2012, all right, 2012. Those could be highlighted years for some of you. And I'm also getting 1977. Maybe some of you were born in the year of 77, but I see that you could also be a healer. And many of you may have a professional, a vocation as a healer. This could be a massage therapist. It could be a doctor, a nurse. You may work with individuals through psychology, counseling, but this could also be intuitive coaching. You may be guiding. You may be using singing bowls or sound frequencies, tarot or oracle. I mean, healing can show up in so many different flavors, right? And you are being guided here to connect to the healing modalities that work for you. But also, if you are being inspired or guided to help others, to be of service through healing in some capacity, this is the month for you to go deeper. This is the month for you to explore more of what you are wanting to learn. So shadow work isn't a bad thing. So many times we see the tower, we see death, and this has been a tad bit of a struggle lately where I've had people respond to videos, or I've had people send me messages saying, Mel, don't say death in your readings, or don't use negative words. But because, for one, I'm a Libra and I like duality, I like to see both sides of all situations. And oftentimes, we fear the shadow. Therefore, we try to do anything we can to move away from it. Now, this isn't about doom and gloom. It is not about prophesizing, challenges up ahead, but it's about helping individuals understand that we can embrace the light and the dark, because that's where wholeness exists. And when you find yourself deterred, or you want to run away from a reading, or if you feel heavy emotions that come up around seeing some of these energies or hearing some of those heavier words, then that is a request within, if you will, to take a look at perhaps some of your own shadows, to maybe face and address if that is something you are working through. Now, you have messages at the bottom of the deck. This is an important announcement. This could be incoming news. I am getting here a telephone as well. So there could be a call that comes in. Maybe this is a call of forgiveness. It could be a call from a family member or someone that maybe you didn't see eye to eye with at some point. But it could also be a call that helps you recover in some way. Maybe financial recovery. This could be a new job offer. For others of you, it feels like this has to do with your health. This could be a medical call where some results are in and you're like, wow, it's paying off. Like, I got my blood work done, or I got these labs done and I'm cancer free, or, I'm not anemic anymore, or I'm working through some of these struggles that my body or that my life has presented. So I see that communication is becoming more clear. Also, intuitive communication. If you have felt a bit foggy, if you felt stuck or confused, I see that you're connecting deeper to your own intuitive awareness. And Spirit is saying here, I am not who I was. I am who I've chosen to become. And that is a powerful message, right? That you may even see showing up in the upcoming month, right? I am not who I was. I am who I've chosen to become. And that could even be an affirmation that you jot down while listening to this reading. And I want you to remind yourself that, because this is the month where you choose who you wish to become. And if there was a version of yourself in the past, because we all carry different personas, we all wear masks, we all wear hats, but it's up to you. You don't have to continue carrying out through some sort of facade, right? You can be anyone you want to be. And I see that the past has been heavy, and some of you feel like that persona is so embedded into your energetic field that you don't know who you are without that emotion or that energy or that role or that persona. And that's why identity is showing up for you this month. Some of you may have even gone through what some call an identity crisis or a midlife crisis. I call it a midlife awakening, or, an awakening of identity, because once you peel back those layers, you get to the truth of who you are. You're able to face the hard, difficult things, right? As Glennon Doyle always says, we can do hard things. You know this to be true, Scorpio, because you've faced hard things in the past and you'll face them again moving forward. But when strength shows up, this tells me that you're overcoming these obstacles. There's nothing that you cannot get through. Now we have here temperance at the bottom of the deck, and we have temperance embodied by karma. Now this is one of those words that people tend to freak out about, or it can be sensitive because people would rather hear dharma, right? The good side of karma. And that's what I'm getting. And look at the yin and the yang, right? You have this duality showing up, and when temperance is here, it means that things are starting to come into balance because you've tried to be as patient as you possibly could with your situation, with your healing, with your body, with your relationships, with your career, you name it. But this is about self-control. It's about allowing yourself that tender loving care that you so desire and you deserve. This is about moderation. Instead of allowing yourself to go to extremes or allowing your temper to get out of control or allowing yourself to feel crazy by external environments and conditioning that may have occurred in your life, you've done a lot of work on yourself where look at the owl. Scorpio, the owl above, I mean, it looks like an owl, yes. Some of you, the owl is your power animal. Perhaps you have an owl tattoo. Perhaps you have an owl that's visited through your dreams, through the great outdoors. I mean, owls we don't often see, but if an owl does cross your path, that's a powerful, positive omen of you really learning some deep lessons, but also gaining the wisdom here, right? You are gaining a lot of wisdom and you're rising from your own ashes. There's a radiant new you being born. You are no longer held down by the shadows that at one point threatened to keep you down for weeks, for months, years, some of you even decades. So those years that I mentioned earlier, those could have been powerful years of change, transformation, death and rebirth, or even identity shifts. Now, moving into your first tarot card out here, we have strength. And oftentimes people wonder, why would this little girl hug the crocodile? You know, that seems like it's not a good thing. That crocodile could come back, right? And haunt her or bite her or even worse. But she's embodying the shadow. She's embodying the shadow within her own self, and she's trusting in love because that's what strength is. You know, the one thing that can overcome everything is love and compassion and allowing yourself to trust that your path and your journey is unfolding in ways that are here to help you evolve as a soul, right? This is soul growth here. And I feel like you have had the option to become bitter or to become better. And you've chose to become a better version of yourself. And if that's still a struggle for you, it's not a lost cause, right? If you are still struggling to forgive, if you're still struggling with anger, if you're still struggling with denial or pain or heartache or heartbreak, remember that's part of this human experience. And you are moving up into this energy, this next cycle, this next trip around the sun, this next era for you, Scorpio, is about showing yourself so much unconditional love that you will never abandon yourself, that you will never leave yourself again. And some of you, that may be what has happened in the past where you've left yourself, you've checked out. You know, as a young girl, I went through a lot of domestic violence, a lot of yelling, a lot of abuse, a lot of alcohol, a lot of sex, a lot of drugs, you name it. I felt like I was always in the midst of it. And I would check out of my body. I would kind of leave. And this is something that I've worked with as I've learned the tools, because the tools aren't just handed to us. And that can be a challenge at times. We don't know that there's something within us that we want to shift, but we feel like we don't always have the tools. And that's where the resources come in here. That's what I said earlier about, you know, reaching out, allowing help to guide you in ways that maybe you didn't have the capacity, or you didn't have the knowledge to be able to do so. Now you do. Now you have that wisdom. Now you may be one of the biggest teachers, one of the biggest guides. Look at that. We have the Hierophant, the wisdom keeper himself, where whether you are the student or in the teacher role at this time, you have overcome great things. Now you have the Eight of Wands showing up. Look at that. That's self-confidence, and the key is right there. So as you release outdated versions of yourself, as you redefine what your path looks like moving forward, it's time to consider your next move, and move courageously, confidently, and boldly into, how you communicate, because the Eight of Wands is an energy of communication. So I feel like you are in alignment here with your truth. You're showing up unapologetically yourself. This is my good, my bad, and my ugly. Take it or leave it, right? This is about you not holding yourself back. It's not about being brass, or it's not about, being in control of a situation. It's actually about surrendering to the divine plan. It's about you surrendering and saying, I'm going to go with the flow more. I'm going to open myself up. I'm going to allow life to come in the way that life is meant to come in, but I'm also the CEO of my life. I am in control of how I respond, how I think, how I want to heal, how I want to show up, and the person that I want to become. That is you being in the CEO, or in the driver's seat of your own life. So your confidence is starting to increase. You're starting to build more momentum as this newfound knowledge sets in for you. There's no stopping you, because the Hanged Man is saying you're starting to look at things from a new perspective. This is that awakening energy. This is the Phoenix. Even though it's not the Death card, which is the Phoenix, look at the rainbow. And you have the rainbow above the crown chakra of the bat. Bats are nocturnal, and owls as well are nocturnal. So there's this energy of you seeing through the shadow, or you being able to embrace darkness, where at one point that was very difficult to do. For myself as well, it's difficult to face our shadow and say, okay, I want to love you and accept you and give you a big old hug. That's not often the case, right? Sometimes we shy up into that shadow. We slowly open up to it because it can be painful. And I see that you're waking up to some sort of truth within you, and it changes everything. I'm hearing the name Cheyenne, or this could even be a location. It could be a place, Cheyenne. And I'm also seeing here what looks to be oil. So maybe someone lives near like the oil rigs, or maybe someone works in the oil industry. I mean, maybe someone needs a change of oil on their vehicle. Please take that as it resonates, but I'm getting oil here. All right, moving into the 10 of Wands, the 2 of Wands, and the Knight of Pentacles. There's the movement. There's the action. Yes, it's slow moving action. It is about you doing things the right way. Even if it takes a little bit of time. The Knight of Pentacles doesn't believe in shortcuts, because they actually know that by doing things correctly, or doing things the right way, that they don't have to go back and redo it. Where sometimes that Knight of Wands will come in and he just wants to get it done, right? Because he has bigger, better things to move on to. But if he does it wrong, he may have to go back and repeat something. Not the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is honest. The Knight of Pentacles is trustworthy. And the Knight of Pentacles is also open to exploration, trying through failure and success, right? Being open to seeing what works best. And that means that you're going to go through trial and error, but you are figuring it out in your way, right? You're healing at your own pace. You are evolving at your own pace. You are opening the door here. And sometimes you're like, Mel, this isn't my pace. This is in slow motion. It's stuck. I want this to go faster, right? But that is about, divine timing here. And sometimes there are lessons that we are meant to learn through that sacred pause. I remember when I first started learning tarot, the hanged man would show up and I'm like, oh, not the hanged man. The hanged man is stuck. It is a hang up. It's a delay. It is, needing to let go. And the reason why I hesitated every time the hanged man came up is because I am a recovering control freak. And when the hanged man shows up, this is about releasing control and allowing life to go with the flow. And that was difficult for me, especially coming from a background where I didn't know what sort of abuse, what would be yelled, what doors would be slammed, what violence would occur, right? Or where I'd be living next, or which school I would be in. One year I was in 3 different schools, and it was really difficult for me as an adult to go with the flow because I felt like I had to be in control of my surroundings or my environment. And that is often a characteristic or a trait that shows up when children have come from homes that were very unstable. And you are moving into this phase of your life where you've created a sense of stability within. And whatever this new cycle is that's being born, maybe you're moving into a new relationship. Perhaps this is a new direction in your career. This could be about you leveling up and taking health into your own hands instead of relying on external energies to kind of tell you what's going on. You're trusting in your own body and you're aligning with the right people, with the right energy that are going to help you grow and evolve into the version of yourself that you wish to become. Now, Scorpio, the 2 of Wands and the 10 of Wands tells me that you're starting to gain focus here. And you've been working really, really hard. All right. The 10 is sometimes working to the point of exhaustion where you've been overwhelmed at times, overwhelmed because we have a lot of responsibilities, right? Many of you are caregivers. You may be parents, you may be spouses or girlfriend or boyfriends. You may have a job where you're the business owner. Maybe you work in the corporate world. You're doing the groceries and the cleaning and, you name it. You have a lot that you are trying to carry. And this can overburden the nervous system. It can overburden the body, and your back may even be feeling pressure, where some of you may have even had your back go out on you, or maybe you've had spinal fusions, or there's been a lot of pain because the back, you'd have pain if you were carrying that ginormous boulder, right? But I feel for many of you, this era, you want to release. You want to live more lighthearted or carefree or simplify things. You don't want to feel like you're constantly living in autopilot, juggling a million things where you're distracted and unfocused and unorganized. So this era for you is about let's say offloading, right? Offloading, chipping away at some of the burdens that have been weighing heavy on you, Scorpio, and moving into more of this focus, moving into more of this state of, all right, I got this. I'm staying more present. I am more organized, because the 2 of Wands is the vision. That's why the glasses are so huge here, right? It's the vision. It's the vision that you have for your future. It is about, that decision point as well. 2s are about choices. And I feel like you are being guided to explore your inner compass. And if there's been any sort of stagnation, which I see here with the Hanged Man, if there's been complacency, doubt, or indecision, this is your month to step out of your comfort zone. This is your month to try something that you've never tried before. Change up your identity. Put yourself out there. Speak your world into existence, and then action it up with that Knight of Pentacles. Action it up with truth, with respect, with honor, with integrity, because that's what the Knight of Pentacles stands for. Now, some of you may even be learning some new skills or learning, some new trainings, and that can feel scary because what happens is we let comparison creep in. Well, what if I'm not good at this? And you start to doubt your beautiful self. Let's say you've always wanted to take a salsa dancing class or a belly dancing class, but you've told yourself, well, I can't do a belly dancing class. I'll get laughed at, or I have two left feet, or I'm too old, or I'm going to look like a fool while everybody else looks fantastic, right? Whatever stories, whatever excuses that we make, because fear steps in the way, doubt steps in the way. This is the month where you are being asked to show up with compassion. Show up unapologetically yourself, because chances are everyone in that room, that dance studio is facing some of those fears, but each and every one of you are brave. You are showing up. And yes, there may be people that are further ahead in that dance journey. Maybe they've been doing it for longer. Maybe they are beginners, but it's not about comparison. It is about you saying to yourself, Scorpio, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for trying. I'm proud of you for putting yourself out there. And I love you anyway, even if you trip over your own feet, even if you miss a beat, even if you are not perfect, because you are showing up imperfectly perfect, Scorpio. And I'm so proud of you here. Now, as Sagittarian season begins later in November, your focus is shifting to your second house of money and values, helping you ground the inner transformation that the beginning of the month and mid-month has brought up for you into more tangible abundance and stability. So before we dive into money, let's look at health. Now, like I've said, almost every sign has received the strength card. So this can show up as overworking, exhaustion, kind of like that 10 of Wands energy, where you may be taking a look at your lifestyle habits, anything that's been unhealthy, you are addressing. If you've had any intimacy issues or sacral chakra wounding, that may be coming up for you this month. Now, strength also rules the core parts of the human body. What are the core parts? The heart, the ribs, the back, the spine. It can be sides of the torso, as well as, our circulatory system. This is circulation. Some of you, if you've been feeling complacent, as I've mentioned, or if you've been feeling like you haven't been motivated, or there's been low energy, low vitality, this is a month where you may be guided to get moving. Even if it is difficult at first to do, Spirit is saying stay consistent to your healing path, because you will get stronger. Just like exercising any muscle, if you start to lift weights, right? You start to build that muscle memory. You start to get stronger in that muscle. That is going to go with anything that you set your mind to, especially when it comes to health. Now, we also have here the Hanged Man. Now, because addictions is coming up here, I have to mention that the Hanged Man can rule drugs of all kinds. Now, this can be prescription drugs. It can be alcohol. It can be tobacco. It can be, any sort of drugs, but it can also be like over medication or being medicated for something that is wrong, right? And I don't want to put that out there, but for example, when my grandma many, many moons ago, she's crossed over from cancer, they had given her the wrong medication, and that really had affected her in a very big way. But that happens, right? And it doesn't mean that there was any malicious intent. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know. And there could be some form of malpractice here for some of you. For others of you, be mindful of the supplements that you are taking. Just because it says natural doesn't mean that it's good for you, right? Just because it says whole doesn't mean it's good for you. So be mindful of what you are ingesting, what you are putting into your body. Now, the Hanged Man also can be sleep disorders, or it can be memory problems, nervous breakdowns, delusions, schizophrenia, insanity, multiple personality disorder, even antisocial behaviors, because it affects the crown chakra. Now, of course, seek out a professional medical personnel if need be. But that is the energy that the Hanged Man can carry. So for some of you, I feel like you've been working on getting better sleep. And a lot of you are really healing through your sleep as well. I mean, we heal anyway through our sleep, but you may be receiving what I call psychic surgery, where you are maybe even traveling. Some of you may be connecting more with your angels, with your guides during your sleep state. So do pay attention if there are some new people, some new energies, or if your dreams feel wild and crazy, don't chalk that off, because there's a lot of healing taking place here. And because we have Temperance at the bottom of the deck, this can suggest like a sudden onset of hot, like hot energy. It's Sagittarian vibe. So it can be fevers. It can be burns even, or behavior that's gone too far. And it can even rule exotic places, indicating like foreign lands. If you are traveling, this is about you, doing your due diligence, of course, and making sure you're not drinking water that's not safe, or, if this is foods. I'm also getting here anything with the hips. Some of you, the hips, the side, the thighs, or even the sciatic nerve for some of you, because I was getting back earlier, that may be an issue of concern. But again, these are energetic connections that can manifest in the physical. So if this is already something you're aware of, connect with a massage therapist, a naturopath, a Reiki healer, or any sort of energetic healer, or, a doctor, a physician, PT. I feel like you have tools, you have resources here. Now, moving into, again, that second house of money and values. Let's look at money, career, finances, and abundance. You have spirituality here. And I did even see this card when we were talking about healing. And I mentioned that many of you are healers, you're light workers. It says you could be a spiritual advisor, a healer, a tarot reader, or anything in the occult. I mean, Scorpio, this has your name written all over it here. Use money magic spells to increase wealth and prosperity. So what that means, I mean, yes, there are certain magic money spells, but what I always take from spells is words, right? Because words, that's why they call it spelling, because words are magic. How we talk to ourselves, how we feel or believe around money, our relationship with money, and the energy exchange that we have with abundance. You are being guided to discover your own unique spiritual path right now. Yes, you are. And if there is a mentor, some of you are going to get a psychic reading or an intuitive reading in the month of November. This could be a birthday present. It could be something that you are, maybe doing like a trip around the sun reading. You want to know what's to come. It feels like there's some very vital information. There's some important information where there's going to be an aspect of light and shadow. But I see that you are staying open to the messages, right? That's why you have message coming in here. And by staying open, it actually is going to help you move into the next chapter of your life with more exploration, to help you make better choices that really align with your truth. So if you are getting some sort of reading done this month, I feel really good about it. There's going to be powerful nuggets of information that you may not understand right away, but you'll see start to unfold for you down the year, or further along in the year. All right, we have treasure coming through here. Now, this is about money in reserve, excess. Some of you could be planners. Perhaps you are executives, executive assistants. You could be in sales. This is about hidden talents. The treasure chest is a very powerful omen. And for many of you, you've been doing something for quite some time. And this could even be a career or a path that takes you into retirement. This could be a path where you are continuously growing and evolving. And another message I'm getting getting here is some of you may even have some form of continuing ed, like you have to renew your license every couple of years. That may show up for some of you, or there could be a renewal of a contract, but you may only be saying yes to this contract if there's either more money on the other end of it, or there is room for growth, room for expansion. And we have the candle here. This is about manifesting money. A lot of you may be in a managerial role. This is about high rank, visibility, athleticism. It's about action. So it does look like after a period of pause, that 8 of Wands is coming in with messages, right? And you have message also at the bottom of the deck. So it feels like it's go time after waiting for results. That 2 of Wands kind of going back and forth here. And some of you may even have more than one option, or you're weighing up your pros and cons this month saying, okay, if I renew this contract, or, if I move in this direction, what does this look like? What is this vision that I see myself in this role? Or can I see myself in this company or building this business in a certain way? So many of you are getting noticed. If you are in the social media presence, let's say you have a platform, maybe a YouTube channel, or if you are an author, maybe you've wanted to write a book, this is a really great launch month to put yourself out there. Remember, the spotlight is on you, and it looks like there is, some form of visibility. If you've been wanting to land a new job or connect to a new corporation, a new company, I'm seeing here the hospital sign. So some of you may even work in a hospital, or of course that could be like the medical field. I feel like there could be an offer coming in there. And also, if you have some sort of refund coming back, it looks like there could be a refund, like a surplus, maybe even back pay for treasure coming through here. So you're manifesting money this month. This is looking good. And for some of you, this is money that was owed to you, or it's money that you are starting to see trickle in from something that you've been slowly but yet consistently trying to build, trying to create. All right, let's look at love, partnerships, relationships. Oh, we have addiction again. So this is codependency, obsession, restraints, emotional blockages. So basically what we've talked about with the shadow, what we've talked about with healing here. And I see that many of you have witnessed this in your life to some degree. Whether you have watched a family member succumb to the nasty chains of addiction, I've seen it more times than not, right? And it's a heavy energy, but we learn so much about ourselves. We learn so much about others. Psychology could even be something that calls out to you, Scorpio, because many of you connect to animals. Yeah, we have horses here. So some of you could really be into equine therapy, or like nonprofit for animals. I see cats. Maybe some of you have cats. I'm getting orange tabby. I'm also getting calico, but also Tigger. Does someone have a cat named Tigger, or like maybe has stripes? Because you can see on the shadow work, there's just a beautiful, beautiful, colorful cat there. More than one. Maybe you used to ride as a child, or perhaps you like to think of like wild horses, right? Wild horses, just feeling free, feeling liberated here. Now, you have twin flames showing up. We've all heard of twin flames. I don't talk about them often because I feel like they're not what everybody thinks, and they're not as common as we think as well. But this is basically, one spark that's branched off into two individual beings that have different soul contracts, but ultimately there is a wholeness between the both of them. It's that yin yang energy that I'm seeing here in your reading. And some of you may have come in contact with a twin flame, and perhaps that was awakening. Maybe that was part of this spiritual awakening. Many of you are working on maybe even calling in a soul flame energy or a twin flame here. But this is yin yang. It's balance. It's an energy that ultimately, when it comes together in the healed version, it complements each other, right? It's union, but it's also duality. It's black and it's white. It's shadow and it's light. It's this energy of opposites attract, but ultimately to come together to complement. And you have here the ship. The ship is about cutting ties, moving on. Many of you have a family member, a friend, a loved one, or even an ex or a current partner that you are ready to move on from because you've progressed, you've grown, you have ascended in ways that maybe they never will be able to, but I feel like you are protecting your peace. And sometimes that can mean this person is no longer in your life, but it can also mean that the way that you're showing up for them is different than it was in the past, meaning you're not going to let anyone take advantage of you. If you are looking for love, and it's been a long time in the waiting, I should say, waiting period, this is about you courageously stepping into communication and maybe speaking up, talking to someone, striking up a conversation, because love doesn't just land on our couch, right? You are meant to open yourself up to love and spark up a conversation. Communication is key here. You may even meet someone who has a bit of a similar path. It almost feels like there could be some uncanny connections that you have with someone. So for example, let's say that your mother's name is Nancy and their mother's name is Nancy, or at the age of 7 years old, you moved to a different state, and at the age of 7, they may have moved. Or it just feels like there's, again, some really uncanny synchronicities that may be taking place between you and this individual. All right, we have human connection and belonging. Touch is a basic human need for survival. Infants need human touch just to survive. Safe touch lowers blood pressure, boosts the immune system, decreases stress, and boosts the feel-good endorphin hormones. Schedule a massage, share a hug, hold a loved one's hand, or give yourself a foot, hand, or neck massage. Your mantra for the month, Scorpio: I feel connected to myself when I allow myself to receive healthy touch and connection. This could be difficult for some of you. Remember earlier I mentioned sacral chakra trauma or wounding? If you have had some sort of human connection that wasn't welcomed, the body remembers, and the body goes into that survival mode. The nervous system, right? The body keeps score. You may have heard of that book. And many of you have been working on creating this safety within. I've mentioned this as well. And you're starting to really crave this human connection, this sense of belonging. And I see that this can be done in a healthy way. This is something you are learning to reprogram for many of you. And some of you, maybe blood pressure, maybe the immune system, or stress, or even hormones could be connected or tied to health. So human connection and belonging. And lastly here, we have the empty room and the river. I'm just going to find these archetypes in the book. One moment. All right, Scorpio, sneak peek at the empty room. Remember, this was underneath the river. So this is part of a shadow that is showing up for many of you. The empty room haunts us all. It is the universal and all too frequent feeling of lack, of wanting, of the craving to fill ourselves with something, anything. We too often attempt to remedy the discomfort of the empty room by any means necessary, leading us to a culture of more. Ironically, the empty room is filled to the brim with potential, yet we perceive it as not enough. This card is a cry for patience, for sitting within the barren walls of not knowing, for awaiting true vision and purpose before attaching to what we should do next to save our outward appearance. Be with the nothingness. Be with the impatience. The empty room has immense power. Let others wonder what you're doing. If you can settle into the magic of emptiness, you will soon hear its whispers of wisdom. And wisdom has come up for you numerous times, including the wisdom keeper with that Hierophant. When this is showing up as the dark, addiction, it says here, insatiability, and more for more's sake. When it's showing up as the light, which I do see the light aspect here, it's spaciousness, it's potential, it's possibility. The archetype of the empty room is also portrayed as the hungry ghost, always feeding and never satiates. A day of silence is a surefire way to harness the power of the empty room. That may be what some of you are being called to do. Maybe a silent retreat, and maybe it's taking the necessary time that you need, maybe backing away from a situation in order for you to get a different or new perspective. And then what was on the top of the shadow was the river. So I feel like this is connected to the light aspect. This is the stream, the flow, the current. There is a reason so many rituals of change and rebirth take place in the river. It is forgiveness embodied in physical form without asking anything in return. The river washes away what is no longer necessary, smoothing over sharp edges and accepting all of our mistakes and grievances. Once we step in, we are no longer in control. The river carries us farther down the stream of transformation than we plan to go. Its waters have a special gift for reflecting back to us a new and dreamlike vision. Once the tears have passed, we see ourselves as we haven't before, with a little more lightness, grace, and fluidity. Keep in mind that the you that stands within the river is the real you, full of deep emotion and potential, nothing to hide, nothing to judge. May you drink in the sight of your true self. This is the era that I'm talking about, right? This is your first house activated. You are in the spotlight. You can choose to become anything that you wish. And this is what it is, Scorpio. When this is showing up as the light, it's acceptance, grace, reflection, and forgiveness. When it's showing up as the dark, it's torment of emotions, flooding, overwhelm. You can only resist the river for so long. Eventually, it will pull you toward change. So you may as well get in with style and grace. The river is emotion, and when you are in its current, you will know it by the bursting forth of tears, laughter, song, despair. All the emotions flow in its current. That is what I have for you, Scorpio. If this reading resonates, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share, like, subscribe, and hit that bell if you haven't already. And if you are interested in a personal reading or signing up for the monthly newsletter, you can find all of that information in the description box below the video or by visiting intuitivesoulcoach.com.